Again, I don't want to ask you about things like that you can't, like you said, laws that may or may not come to pass. But just last week, there was, I noticed on your website, there's this, a group of people in the United States that believe that FEMA has built camps across the United States, and they say that one day they will be used to...
We criticized it.
Yeah,
okay.
I noticed that. The thing is that just last week in Israel, there was a large-scale military training exercise that involved large segments of the army. And the training exercise, as reported by Israeli radio, was that it was to simulate a situation where the Israeli government would make a decision to transfer or to change the borders of the state of Israel, which would disenfranchise some of its Arab citizens, and that in the wake of that decision, a lot of Israelis would react and protest it, and then in the wake of these protests, the army would then create prison camps to hold them. And that sounds to me like that exact situation,
That's absolute nonsense, okay? This is Israel training its soldiers to situations, anticipating what would happen if there was serious either military issues or civil disobedience. And for you to compare it with some idiots who are saying that the United States is setting up concentration camps, it's absolute nonsense. Thank God the Israeli government is trying to anticipate. It anticipates the gamut of possible reactions, and thank God that it has the foresight, or some people have the foresight, to anticipate the worst of situations, to prepare its soldiers, its citizen soldiers, as to how to react. So what is the problem? And how does this compare to some idiot saying that FEMA is making concentration camps, which is somebody's figment of stupid imagination?
Well, the only reason I brought it up is to say that this is obviously something you're against.
No, I'm against an idiot who creates rumors against whatever, to frighten the American people, etc. That's what I'm against. That's not what this is all about.
Do you think that this military exercise...
I don't know. I'm not an expert. I am not an expert on civil disobedience. I'm not an expert on what maneuvers and exercises the Israeli military engages in, and I don't have the slightest idea.
Okay, fair enough. The thing is, I know that one of the things that you've also come out in strong opposition to, as well as the label apartheid, is the movement to create a boycott. And
correct.
I understood that would you feel the same way if the boycott is directed at all, or I said primary, secondary, tertiary boycott? Do you feel it the same way if it's a boycott directed specifically against organizations or groups or institutions of some kind that operate in the West Bank, specifically target against them because they operate in the West Bank?
I'm opposed to boycotts, period. I think boycotts hurt the wrong people, do not achieve their aims. They are they're counterproductive. I'm not aware of any boycott except for the boycott against South Africa that has worked. And even there, it hurt innocent people because it really was more directed at people losing their jobs than the government. So I'm opposed to boycotts, and certainly opposed to boycotts, whether against the whole state of Israel or segments of the state of Israel. Yes, we basically have a policy of being opposed to boycotts.
But I mean, it's not necessarily, if I understand correctly, because it's less tactically effective. It's because, is it moral reasons?
Well, the moral reason is boycotts basically hurt the wrong people, and they're innocent victims of the boycott. They do not necessarily impact. There's a question about sanctions, whether sanctions work either. It's the same issue. We do not believe that one should use boycotts because, first of all, you start a boycott, you don't know how to control. You doesn't have a control. It's very difficult to stop it. And on a principled position, we are opposed to boycotts.
Okay.
And most people who take boycotts do so selectively, usually has their point of view, which they're entitled to, and we have a right to say it's wrong, it shouldn't be, don't use it.
Well, again, it seems to me that what you've said now is are tactical reasons. Again, you're saying because it can go out of control, but there's a situation right now where Palestinians, have desires. Obviously, we're saying, I think we can agree that we're saying that a military or an armed struggle is something that we condemn on that part. What's happening now is that a lot of Palestinians who are actually engaging in non-violent demonstrations, weekly demonstrations, are being like Adib Abu Rahma, Abdallah Abu Rahma. Like these are people who have just been sentenced to a year or year and a half in jail for things like
you have a justice system. This is a democracy. You have a justice system. You deal with the justice system. I am not an expert. I am not an expert on the judicial system, and I don't intend to be. I am concerned about people who, in a bigoted way, single out Israel, to be critical, to undermine it. Period. You don't like some of my selections, you're entitled. I don't pretend to come here and become your civil liberties union. I don't pretend to make judgments, and this is what you want me to do. That's fine for you, not for me.
You are. Well,
I am not. I'm not. I'm an American organization whose one is
a blacklist of 10 groups. That
I didn't say, excuse me, you used the word blacklist. That's because of your prejudice. I didn't use a blacklist. It is called information. I didn't ask anybody to do anything. I believe that people should know who people are and what they represent. Okay. You make your judgment. You like them, God bless you. You want to support them, you use blacklist. That's your political term, which is nonsense. Okay. You know what? You have a couple more questions.
I'm just throwing.
No, but you've already made this judgment that it's a blacklist. Blacklist is boycott.
So then you say no, and then I say, okay, what word term would you like?
Oh,
and then I listen to you what you're asking.
Fine.
No problem. So what I'm saying is, if we're saying that a group, we started off with saying armed struggle is not okay. Okay? What's happening is that people who are organizing non-violent demonstrations are also being arrested for that.
Do you know how many conflicts there are in the world? Dude, I want to see those people. If you want to boycott Israel because you think that it doesn't meet the standards of justice that you believe in, I have no problem with that. But if at the same time you also don't boycott 20 other places in the world where there is no justice, it doesn't even come close to here, that's not, as far as I'm concerned, that's not real. If you want to boycott because you want to change a certain system, fine. Then do it in China, do it vis-a-vis Cuba, do it vis-a-vis Saudi Arabia, do it vis-a-vis Iran. Most of the people that we are opposed to, their boycotts, are those who only select the state of Israel for their standard of justice. And that to me is bigoted and biased.
Do you think that people... What if an Israeli is advocating it? And
I think he's wrong.
But for Israel,
I have an opinion.
It's the most important thing for someone who lives here.
Listen, listen to me. I don't advocate doing anything, but I have the right to say I think this is wrong. I think this is counterproductive.
Right.
I want to see the same Israeli concerned about the rights in Saudi Arabia or in China. If you listen, Israelis travel all over the globe. They travel to countries where there is no democracy. They spend their money there. Here, they boycott here or the West Bank. They don't boycott it in Tibet, or in China where they go, or in India. Look at the conditions of justice there too. So it's a double, triple standard, but they're entitled.
They're cafe revolutionaries or something like that. That's a generalization to say that anyone who engages in political activity is sipping lattes in Goa.
I didn't say it. You're putting words into my mouth. I'm saying these are the same people. You're saying Israelis. I don't have a problem about that. They're entitled to do what they want. I'm not here to sit and say you can't do whatchamacallit. But if there's an organization that singles out Israel under the banner of social justice, and I have a right to say, anywhere else you raise that standard, you're entitled to raise that standard about Israel. Absolutely. But if the only country in the world where you see violations of human rights, etc., is Israel, you're a bigot.
Just from a personal perspective, my sense is that people who advocate this are constantly saying that we should be engaged, or people that they agree with them politically should disengage from all kinds of capitalism, all kinds of corporations.
But they do not take the same actions vis-a-vis other countries. They selectively pick politically, they're entitled. But I'm also entitled to say this is double, triple standard, and sometimes it's anti-Semitism, not always is it anti-Semitism.
But someone could also...
Listen, we need to wind up.
Okay.
This can go on for 5 hours.
No.
You said 20 minutes.
Well, actually, we said 40 minutes, but...
I didn't say 40. Okay, but go ahead.
That's what Phyllis told me. I'm just going through questions and then...
You know, I don't think it's productive. I really don't. You're not really interested. You're interested in finding and focus. That's fine. You're entitled. You're a journalist. I don't think it's productive for anybody. It really isn't.
I'm going to ask you a hard question.
I don't know what a hard question is.
That I'm interested in.
Fine. Okay. So let's see if we can wind up.
Issues are interested in me.
Fine.
Because if you can't be...
Fine. Let's see if we can wind up.
The reason why I asked you that question is because
all the questions are in the same vein. Okay, I represent an organization, stand for an organization which is 97 years old. I've been involved in public Jewish life for 45 years, and all your questions are in what you're entitled. But I'm saying, okay, I've had enough. Ask me something that's a little different, or let's wind up. This is all a political, trying to ascertain politically. You started with Murdoch. Of all the things that we do, how come you didn't ask me about, I came here this week. I went to see the kids in Ofarim, in Rogozin.
That's you.
No, it's your agenda too, because that smacks of unfairness in this country.
There's other Haaretz writers and other Israeli writers who are...
Okay, so you only care about things that you don't like that I do, not things
I'm not representing...
That's fine. That's fine, and I don't want to waste my time engaging your views. We did it. Okay, move on.
I think I'm asking you different questions, and I think I asked...
That's fine. You're entitled to ask any question that you want, and after a while I say, hey, this is not really... This is to take a series of issues which you don't like what we do, which you're entitled to.
It's not about me. It's about the...
It's who you represent. Fine.
You say you represent people.
That's right. And I
don't really know exactly how policy decisions...
Well, you could have asked me that, but you didn't.
There's so many questions here.
Well, okay, fine.
That's super interesting to me. It's
fine.
Super interesting to me, how...
David, let's proceed.
You want me to go to the next one?
Yes.
All right.